On a silent runway, a teenage janitor wipes oil from the wheels of a billionaire's jet. Suddenly she freezes. His assistant is crouched by the engine, twisting something with a gleaming metal tool. In that instant she faces a choice no one her age should ever have to make: stay quiet and keep her job, or speak up and risk everything her family depends on. What she does next will spark a chain of events that will change her life forever. Before we dive in, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. The woman shouldn't have been there. Not this early, and certainly not alone. From the corner of her eye, Maya Brennan saw movement near the fuselage. A woman tall in a tailored gray suit with neatly styled silver hair was crouched low by the engine intake. The woman wasn't part of the usual maintenance crew. Maya recognized her. Everyone did. Miss Harper, the longtime personal assistant of Richard Ashford, the billionaire philanthropist and business magnate known for owning the exact jet Maya was working around. Harper shouldn't be there. And certainly not alone. Maya froze, mop half raised. The woman had something in her hand, small, metallic, like a tool or device. She seemed to be twisting something just under the nacelle. It wasn't cleaning, it wasn't inspection, it looked wrong. The assistant glanced around quickly before standing up and slipping the object into her blazer. Her gait was calm, almost rehearsed, as she walked away, never once looking toward Maya. For a few seconds, Maya didn't move. Her chest tightened, heart tapping against her ribs like it wanted out. She swallowed, her grip on the mop handle tightening. What was that? She muttered under her breath. Voice shaky. Did I just see? No. Her mind spun. She wanted to believe she had imagined it. Maybe the woman had clearance. Maybe it was some kind of routine. But deep inside, something clawed at her gut. The way Harper looked around, the way she moved, it felt intentional. It felt like someone who didn't want to be seen. But who would listen to her? A janitor who barely had permission to be near the aircraft, let alone question someone like Miss Harper. A woman who probably made more in a week than Maya's family had seen in years. She turned her eyes to the plane. It stood majestic and beautiful, its white exterior kissed by the first golden rays of sunlight. In a few hours it would be airborne, with Richard Ashford inside, with his trust placed in the very people around him. Maya's breath hitched. You could stay silent. No one saw what you saw. She could finish her shift, collect her paycheck, go home to her father who was depending on her income for his medication. Speaking up could cost her everything. This job, this access to the plane she loved, the fragile stability they'd built from nothing. Just minutes earlier, the world had been quiet. The sun had not yet risen, but the sky above Nashville was already softening into a pale grayish blue, streaked with the first faint colors of dawn. The tarmac shimmered under the yellow floodlights, slick from the Tennessee rain that had fallen through the night. Aircraft hangars stood in the distance like sleeping giants, their steel frames creaking softly in the cool morning breeze. The steady hum of a cleaning truck rolled across the lot, echoing off the aluminum walls. Among the few crews preparing for the day, a lone girl, small, wiry, 17 years old, moved with quiet determination between the wheels of a Gulfstream G650 jet. Her uniform was wrinkled, and an oversized gray vest with a broken zipper hung loosely on her thin frame. Her skin was dusted with engine soot, and strands of dark hair slipped out from beneath her cap. The name patch on her chest read Maya. She didn't need the uniform to prove she belonged here. She had earned her space with a mop and a wrench, and the resolve of someone twice her age. Maya Brennan knew how invisible she looked in a place like this. She had bent down, picking up a loose soda can someone had kicked under the landing gear. Her gloved fingers brushed against cold metal, and she took a breath. Not from effort, but habit. She had stood back up and scanned the apron. There were no other cleaners this early. The elite aircraft zone was mostly silent, except for the occasional murmur from a pilot walking to check his manifest. Nobody paid attention to Maya. Not really, and that was fine with her. Being overlooked was safer. She'd moved toward the maintenance ladder, wiping down the wheel housing. Her fingers, though roughened from labor, moved with an unexpected grace, as if they admired the machinery even while cleaning it. Her eyes, bright and steady, often wandered over the bolts and panels like they were pages from a favorite book. She didn't just clean jets, she studied them. This wasn't just a job, it was a front row seat to her dream. Her voice had been barely a whisper as she spoke to herself. Rolls-Royce BR 725 engines. She's got a top speed of 685 miles per hour and a range of 7,000 miles. There had been a glimmer of reverence in her tone, like a kid reciting a prayer. Maya had been working at Nashville International's private aviation terminal for 8 months now. The job had come at the worst possible time and the best possible time. Her father, James Brennan, had been injured in a construction accident the previous winter, 3 herniated discs and medical bills that mounted faster than they could count. Her mother had left when Maya was 10, disappearing into a life they never heard about again. It had always been just Maya and her dad, and when he couldn't work, she became the breadwinner at 16. The school counselor had tried to intervene, talking about child labor laws and protective services, but Maya had begged her not to report it. "If they take me away, my dad has nothing," she'd pleaded. The counselor, Mrs. Patterson, had reluctantly agreed to look the other way, but only if Maya promised to keep up with her studies. Maya had kept that promise, doing homework in the break room during her shifts, studying aircraft manuals with the same intensity other kids her age devoted to social media. Now, as the sky turned from gray to gold, her father's voice came to her again, clearer this time, like it floated in with the wind. "Doing the right thing can hurt, but you do it anyway. Not because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do." James Brennan had said that to her when she was 9, after she'd witnessed another kid shoplifting at the grocery store. She'd told the manager, and the kid, who turned out to be from her school, had made her life miserable for months afterward. But her father had held her while she cried and repeated those words until they became part of her. She looked down at her trembling hands, then back at the jet glowing in the new light. And in that moment, Maya knew the hardest part wasn't what she'd seen. It was what she was going to do next. Even as the sun lit up the tarmac, and the world around her awoke with the sounds of jet engines, coffee carts, and murmured conversations in headsets, Maya Brennan stood frozen near the underbelly of the jet, her mind spiraling with doubt. She walked toward the side lot where the other janitors gathered for their morning break, but everything felt distant, like she was moving through fog. Her feet felt heavy, each step a debate between safety and conscience. In the cramped break room tucked behind a fuel dispatch terminal, a microwave beeped as someone reheated yesterday's noodles. The sharp scent of cleaning fluid lingered in the air, mixing with the bitterness of burnt coffee. Maya sat at the far end, silent, eyes locked on her half-eaten sandwich, hands clasped tightly in her lap. A stocky woman named Denise, mid-40s, with short-cropped hair and a booming laugh, plopped beside her, cracking open a bottle of Gatorade. "You look like you seen a ghost, kid," Denise said, her voice half joke, half observation. Maya hesitated, then spoke, barely audible. "I saw Miss Harper near the engine this morning. She was doing something weird." Her voice cracked, unsure. She wasn't even sure if she wanted to be heard. Denise let out a dry chuckle, wiping sweat from her neck. "You mean the boss's right hand? What was she doing, dusting the plane with a silk cloth?" A couple of the others laughed, but Maya didn't. She had something in her hand. It looked like, I don't know, a tool. She was twisting something, and then she just walked off. Maya continued, her voice now sharper, her eyes meeting Denise's. The laughter faded. A man named Tony looked over, lips pursed. Tony had worked at the airport for 15 years, had seen everything from petty theft to serious security breaches. He was known for being practical, sometimes cynically so. "You accusing her of tampering with the plane? That's a bold claim, Maya." Maya felt the weight of the room tilt against her. "I'm not saying I know for sure, but it didn't feel right. What if something's wrong, and nobody says anything?" Denise leaned back, sighing. "Kid, look. You speak up without proof, you're the one who gets burned. We clean floors. We don't make accusations, especially not about people who wear $1,000 suits." Tony nodded, folding his arms. His expression had shifted from skeptical to almost paternal, tinged with concern. "If you're wrong, you could lose this job. You think anyone up there is going to believe a girl from the janitor crew over his personal assistant? I've seen good people get blacklisted from every airport in the state for less." Those words pierced deeper than they intended. Maya's chest tightened, the room blurred around the edges. She looked down, her fingers gripping the sides of her chair. No one had said it, but she heard the unspoken part loud and clear. She was young, poor, and from the wrong side of town. Her word wouldn't carry far, especially against someone like Harper, who had the trust and proximity of a billionaire. I just don't want something bad to happen, Maya muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Denise leaned forward, voice low now, almost gentle. And I don't want to read about a girl who stuck her nose where it didn't belong. You got a good thing here, Maya. Your daddy needs that insurance you're on. Don't mess it up. The mention of her father hit like a physical blow. Denise knew about James's condition, knew about the medical bills. Everyone in the crew knew. They'd even taken up a collection for them a few months back, gathering $217 that had felt like a fortune. She gave Maya a firm pat on the back, then stood and left. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Maya sat there long after the others had gone, replaying the morning over and over in her head. Maybe she had imagined it. Maybe Harper really was checking something routine. But the way she looked around before walking off, that furtive glance, that deliberate movement, that image kept clawing back. An older janitor, a quiet man named Frank, who rarely spoke, had stayed behind. He was wiping down the counters with methodical precision, but Maya could feel him watching her. Maybe seeing the fear in her face reminded him of his own daughter. My daughter would be about your age, Frank said finally, not looking at her. Would have been, I mean. She died in a car accident 5 years ago. Faulty brake line that the mechanic had missed during inspection. Maya looked up, startled by the confession. Frank continued wiping, his movements steady. The mechanic had noticed something off, but didn't say anything. Thought he was wrong. Thought it wasn't his place. He told me that at the funeral, crying his eyes out. Said he'd carry that weight forever. He finally turned to look at Maya, his eyes red-rimmed but clear. I'm not telling you what to do, kid. But I'll tell you this, living with what if is harder than living with the consequences of trying. Then he left, leaving Maya alone with the hum of the ancient refrigerator and the weight of his words. She stepped outside again, this time into a brighter world. The Tennessee heat now rising off the concrete, the private jet still gleaming under the sun, like nothing had happened. No one suspected a thing. No alarms, no delays, everything was normal. And yet the normalcy felt like a mask, a thin veneer over something rotten underneath. She looked up and saw the catering truck pulling in. Soon passengers would be arriving. The Ashford Gulfstream would be in the air within the hour. As she watched the jet's silhouette stretch across the runway, Maya whispered to herself, if something goes wrong and I stay quiet, I'll never forgive myself. The weight of silence had never felt heavier. She pulled out her phone, a battered old model with a cracked screen, and looked at the wallpaper. A photo of her and her dad from 2 years ago, before the accident, when he could still throw her over his shoulder and make her laugh. His smile was wide, genuine, full of the hope that things would always be okay. She thought about what losing this job would mean, not just for her, but for him. The medication he needed cost $400 a month, even with insurance. The physical therapy was another $200. Their rent was $750. Her paycheck of roughly $1,200 a month, supplemented by her father's disability payments, barely covered it all. But she also thought about Frank's daughter, about a mechanic who stayed silent and lived with that choice forever. She thought about a plane falling from the sky, and she made her decision. The moment came faster than Maya expected. Less than an hour after her conversation in the break room, she spotted the sleek black SUV pulling up to the edge of the private runway. Security detail moved like shadows, polished and precise, opening the rear door as a pair of polished Oxford shoes stepped out onto the tarmac. Richard Ashford, poised, commanding, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit like it was born on him, smiled softly as he nodded to his team. He looked untouched by age, wealth sculpted into every gesture. A man so distant from Maya's world, he might as well have stepped out of a business magazine cover. She'd seen him before, of course. He flew out of Nashville twice a week, always polite to the ground crews, always remembering to say thank you. Once 3 months ago, he'd asked her name. She'd been so shocked that a man like him would bother that she'd stammered it out like a question. He'd smiled and said, "Good work, Maya. The attention to detail around my aircraft never goes unnoticed." She'd treasured that interaction for weeks. And yet he was about to step into danger. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she stood behind the gate fence, her cleaning badge dangling from a lanyard, forgotten. Her breaths came faster, panic tightening in her chest. No one had listened. The plane hadn't been checked, and he was walking toward it, laughing lightly with Harper, who trailed just behind him, holding his leather briefcase like nothing was wrong. Harper looked perfect, as always. Not a hair out of place, her expression serene and professional. She'd worked for Richard Ashford for 12 years, was trusted with everything from his schedule to his private communications. Everyone spoke of her with respect, sometimes even with awe at her efficiency and discretion. How could Maya, a nobody, a child, accuse someone like that? But then she saw Harper's eyes. Just for a second they flicked toward the aircraft, and something passed through them. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. Or anticipation. That was it. That was the last straw. Something in Maya snapped. She dropped the mop bucket where it stood and bolted. Her feet pounded the concrete, racing across the tarmac before she could even process the consequences. She didn't yell at first, her lungs caught in fear. But as the gap between her and the staircase narrowed, she shouted, voice cracking with urgency. "Sir, please stop. Don't get on that plane." The bodyguards reacted instantly. One reached for his holster, another moved to block her path. A third grabbed her arm, firm but not rough. "Stop right there," someone barked through a radio. But Maya didn't stop struggling. "Please just listen. It's not safe," she cried, her voice raw with desperation blooming in every word. "The engine, something's wrong with the engine." Richard paused mid-step, one foot on the bottom stair, his head turning slowly, his brow furrowed, not in fear, but in confusion. He raised a hand gently, signaling the guards to wait. "Let her speak," he said calmly, his voice like cooled steel. The guard released Maya's arm, but stayed close, ready to intervene if needed. Maya skidded to a halt just feet away, chest heaving, her eyes wide and pleading, locked onto his. "I know I'm just a cleaner," she gasped, the words tumbling out in a rush. "But this morning I saw Miss Harper near the engine. She had something in her hand. She was twisting something under the intake. It didn't look right. I swear. I know how it sounds. I know what I'm risking. But please don't get on that plane until someone checks it." The air around them grew still. Other ground crew members had stopped what they were doing, watching the scene unfold. A few passengers who'd been approaching stopped in their tracks. Harper stepped forward, and Maya saw something flicker across her face before it settled into an expression of disbelieving concern. Her lips were tight in a small patient frown, like a teacher dealing with a confused child. "With all due respect, sir, she's mistaken. I dropped a pen this morning while walking around the aircraft during my pre-flight inspection. The girl probably saw me pick it up. This is a misunderstanding. She's just confused." Her voice was perfectly modulated, not defensive, not angry, just reasonably puzzled by the accusation. Maya snapped her head toward her, eyes blazing. "You didn't drop anything. I saw you looking around before you touched the panel. I saw the tool in your hand. You weren't supposed to be there. You weren't wearing safety gear. You weren't logged in with maintenance." Harper's smile remained, though the edges had stiffened almost imperceptibly. "She's from the cleaning crew. Sir, you really think I'd sabotage your aircraft? After 12 years of loyal service, this is absurd." Richard's eyes flicked between the two of them, his expression unreadable. Maya could see him calculating, weighing, deciding. The head of security, a man named Marcus Chen who'd been with Richard for 8 years, leaned in and whispered something, probably advising him to dismiss the claim, to not let a child's imagination delay his schedule. But Richard held up a hand, silencing him. "No, I don't think you'd be that stupid," Richard said slowly, his gaze settling on Harper, narrowing slightly. "But I also don't think this girl would risk her job, her reputation, and possibly her safety just to lie to me." He turned to Marcus. "Call an independent inspection team. Now, I want a full diagnostic on that jet before I set one foot on it." Harper's face twitched, just barely, but it was enough. Maya saw it, a flicker of panic, a crack in the perfect facade. "Sir, this is going to delay you by hours," Harper said, her voice still controlled but with an edge now. "The Washington summit can wait," Richard finished firmly. or I can conference in remotely. Marcus, make the call. Harper's jaw tightened. She looked at Maya, and for just a second the mask fell completely. The look was pure venom, a promise of retribution. Then it was gone, replaced by professional resignation. Of course, sir. Whatever you think is best. The next 30 minutes passed in tense silence. The inspection team arrived with equipment and urgency, crawling beneath the aircraft while guards stood by. Maya sat on the low edge of a cargo crate, fingers trembling, watching, waiting. Richard had insisted she stay, had even brought her a bottle of water from the catering service. Whatever happens, I want you here, he'd said. A single drop of sweat trailed down the back of her neck. She didn't know what was worse, being wrong or being right. If she was wrong, she'd lose her job. Certainly, word would spread. She'd be unhireable. Her father would lose his insurance. They'd lose their apartment. If she was right, she'd just uncovered something so dark, so unthinkable, that she couldn't fully process it. Harper stood near the SUV, still composed, checking her phone periodically. To anyone watching, she looked mildly inconvenienced, nothing more. But Maya noticed her foot tapping, a tiny rhythmic movement that betrayed her nerves. The inspection team worked with methodical precision. Maya watched them, recognizing some of the procedures from her own studies. They were checking the hydraulic lines, the fuel systems, the engine mounts, standard stuff. Then one of them called out, urgent and sharp, "Got something here." Everyone converged. Maya stood up, her legs shaky, and moved closer. Richard was already there, his expression grave. One of the lead engineers, a gray-haired woman named Patricia Summers with 30 years of experience, walked up to Richard with a clipboard in hand, and a grim expression that made Maya's stomach drop. "Mr. Ashford, we found signs of deliberate tampering inside the engine nacelle. The torque on several critical bolts was loosened in a very specific pattern. Additionally, there's evidence of compromise to the fuel line monitoring system. It's been disabled in a way that would prevent error warnings from reaching the cockpit." She paused, her voice dropping lower. "Sir, if this aircraft had taken off, you would have experienced catastrophic engine failure approximately 15 to 20 minutes into flight. At cruising altitude, with the fuel line issues, the probability of survival would have been virtually zero." Gasps rippled through the assembled staff. One of the younger mechanics covered her mouth with her hand. Marcus Chen's face went pale. Richard's expression hardened, lips pressed into a tight line. He was quiet for a long moment, processing the magnitude of what he'd just heard. Someone had tried to kill him. Not just tried, had nearly succeeded. He slowly turned toward Harper, who stood perfectly still, her hands folded in front of her, her face a mask of shock that would have been convincing if Maya hadn't seen that earlier flicker. "Victoria," Richard said quietly, using Harper's first name. "Is there anything you'd like to tell me?" "Sir, I'm as shocked as you are. I can't imagine." "The tool," Richard interrupted. "What did you do with the tool?" Harper blinked. "I told you I didn't have a tool. I dropped a pen." Richard turned to Marcus. "Search her, her person, her bag, her car. Everything." "Sir, this is outrageous." Harper's voice finally rose, her composure cracking. "I have rights. You can't just, you're on private property, and there's reasonable suspicion of attempted murder." Marcus said flatly, "You can cooperate, or I can detain you forcibly until the police arrive. Your choice." Harper's eyes darted around, looking for an escape route, but security had already positioned themselves strategically. She was trapped. "Fine," she said, through gritted teeth. "But you're making a mistake." The search was thorough. In her blazer pocket they found nothing. In her purse, nothing but the usual items. But when they searched her car, parked in the VIP lot, they found a small toolkit, hidden under a false bottom in the trunk. One of the tools had traces of aircraft-grade sealant on it, the same type used in the Gulfstream's engine assembly. They also found something else, a burner phone with a series of encrypted messages. Marcus looked at the phone, then at Richard. "We need to bring in federal authorities. This is bigger than corporate security can handle." Richard nodded slowly. "Detain her. Call my legal team and the FBI." Two security guards stepped forward. Harper didn't resist this time. As they approached with restraints, she finally spoke, her voice cold and stripped of all pretense. "You don't understand. You couldn't possibly understand." "Then explain it to me," Richard said, his voice quiet, but laced with steel. Harper laughed, a brittle sound. You fly around in your $65 million jet, while people like me do all the real work. 12 years, Richard. 12 years of my life. Do you know what you paid me? What you thought was generous? It was crumbs. Crumbs from a table that could feed thousands. So this is about money? Richard asked, incredulous. It's about justice, Harper snapped. People like you shouldn't exist. The wealth you waste on toys while children go hungry, while the planet burns. Someone had to do something. So you decided to kill me. I decided to make a statement. Your death would have sparked conversations, investigations, reform. You're worth more dead than alive to the world. Maya felt sick listening to this. The casual way Harper spoke about murder, about her twisted logic that somehow made it righteous. Richard's expression didn't change. Marcus, she's all yours. I don't want to hear another word from her. As they put the restraints on Harper's wrists, she looked directly at Maya for the first time since the discovery. You stupid little girl, she hissed. You have no idea what you've done. No idea who you're protecting. He's not a good man. None of them are. That's enough, Marcus said firmly, guiding her toward the waiting security vehicle. But Harper called out one more time, her voice carrying across the tarmac. You think he's going to save you? You think this ends well for you? You're just a tool to him, just like I was. He'll use you and discard you. That's what people like him do. Then she was in the vehicle, and the door slammed shut. As Harper was driven away, her head visible through the tinted windows, a strange hush settled over the tarmac. Richard Ashford stood with his arms crossed, his gaze lingering on the aircraft, as if seeing it for the first time, not as a symbol of power, but of vulnerability. The inspection team huddled around their notes, their tones clipped and serious. Despite removing the immediate threat and documenting the tampering, the engine was still compromised. The jet wasn't going anywhere. Not today, maybe not for days. The bolts were twisted just enough to destabilize the rotation module, and the fuel line sensors have been completely corrupted, Patricia explained, shaking her head. It's precision sabotage. We could call in the Atlanta crew. They specialize in this tier of damage. But they won't be here for another 12 hours, maybe more, and even then they'll need time to source the specific replacement parts. Richard pinched the bridge of his nose. He looked suddenly tired, the weight of the morning settling on him. I have a summit in Washington this evening. 3 major relief programs are waiting on funding commitments I'm supposed to make in person. The foundation has been working on these initiatives for 2 years. Canceling means those programs could lose their primary backing. We're talking about food security for 40,000 families. There was silence. Helplessness thickened the air. The ground crew exchanged looks. Even Patricia, with all her experience, seemed at a loss. And then softly, from behind the row of suited professionals, a voice broke through. I can try. Maya said it. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. Every head turned. She stood with her back straight, her eyes locked onto the jet, not defiant, but certain. The kind of certainty that doesn't come from arrogance, but from hours spent watching, learning, dreaming when no one noticed. Her uniform still bore the smudges of grease and ground oil, but in that moment, she stood taller than anyone else on that tarmac. Richard raised an eyebrow. You want to repair a $65 million aircraft? His voice wasn't mocking, just surprised, maybe even impressed. Maya didn't flinch. I've studied that model since I was 10. The G650's engine configuration, the BR725's pressure balance system, the hydraulic core integration. I know it. I know what that damage was meant to do, and I know how to fix it. I think I can. Patricia's expression shifted from skepticism to curiosity. You're the cleaning girl. I'm a maintenance technician in training. Maya corrected quietly. I just haven't had the formal certification yet, but I've been teaching myself from every manual I can find. I've watched every video, read every technical document available online. I know this plane. The lead technician from the inspection team, a younger man named Kevin, chuckled nervously. Kid, we appreciate your confidence, but this isn't a Lego set. You strip a bolt the wrong way, you'll make it worse. This is specialized work that requires years of training. Then supervise me, Maya replied, her voice calm now, measured. Watch everything I do. Stop me if I'm wrong, but I'm telling you I can fix this. I just need tools and 30 minutes. Patricia crossed her arms, studying Maya with new interest. You said you've been teaching yourself. What materials have you been using? Maya rattled off a list: specific aircraft maintenance manuals, engineering forums, video courses from certified mechanics, even a correspondence course she'd been taking online through a community college. She detailed her understanding of the G650's systems with a precision that made the professionals exchange surprised glances. "She knows her stuff," one of the junior inspectors murmured. Patricia looked at Richard, waiting for his decision. This was insane by any standard protocol. Letting an uncertified 17-year-old work on a jet worth more than most people would earn in multiple lifetimes. But Richard studied Maya's face, the sincerity, the quiet fire behind her eyes. There was no performance there, no ego, just a girl who saw a problem and couldn't walk away from it. The same girl who'd risked everything to save his life an hour ago. "You stopped me from boarding a death trap," he said slowly. "The least I can do is let you try. Patricia, you and your team supervise. She doesn't make a move without your approval." Patricia nodded, still looking doubtful but willing. "All right, Maya, let's see what you've got." The team cleared space in the maintenance bay, skeptical but curious. Maya knelt beside the open access panel, and Patricia handed her a torque wrench. Maya's hands were steady as she took it, testing the weight, adjusting her grip. "Talk me through what you're going to do," Patricia instructed. "Every single step before you do it." Maya nodded. "First, I need to secure the engine mount to prevent any rotational stress while I work. Then I'll remove the damaged bolts in sequence, starting from the outer ring and working inward to maintain structural integrity. Each bolt needs to be checked for thread damage. If the threading is compromised, the housing will need to be retapped before new bolts go in." Patricia raised her eyebrows. "That's correct. Proceed." Maya worked with deliberate care, her movements precise. Her fingers moved instinctively, loosening protective plates, sliding into tight crevices of metal and carbon fiber, with practiced precision despite never having actually done this specific repair before. It was like her body remembered something her hands had never touched. She worked mostly in silence, eyes narrowed in focus, brow furrowed in concentration. But she narrated each action for Patricia's approval, explaining her reasoning, demonstrating her understanding of the interconnected systems. People gathered around without realizing it. Technicians, security personnel, even some of the catering staff paused their work to watch. Ground crews from other aircraft wandered over, drawn by the unusual sight. A 17-year-old girl commanding the belly of a machine built for titans. Every twist of the tool, every check of the gauge was like watching muscle memory unfold from someone born into it. Richard stood nearby, his phone in hand but forgotten. He'd been trying to arrange a video conference for the summit, but he found himself unable to look away from Maya's work. 15 minutes in, she paused, examining a bolt she'd just removed. "This one's been bent from the torque," she said, pointing. "See here, the shaft has a slight curve, maybe 2 degrees. At high altitude, with the engine running at full capacity, the vibration differential would cause this to work loose over time. If we leave it, the balance will be off. We need to replace it." Patricia leaned in, examining the bolt with a practiced eye. She pulled out a precision measuring tool, and checked. "She's right, it's bent 1.8 degrees. Good catch, Maya. Very good catch." One of the engineers blinked in surprise, then wordlessly handed Maya the replacement part. The murmurs began then, quiet, astonished. One whispered, "How the hell does she know that?" Kevin, the skeptical technician from earlier, shook his head in disbelief. "I've been doing this for 7 years, and I would have missed that." Maya didn't hear them. She was somewhere else. Somewhere inside the engine, inside the systems she had memorized from second-hand manuals and blurry YouTube videos. This wasn't about proving herself. This was about doing the right thing all the way through. About making sure that when Richard Ashford flew, he flew safely. She moved to the fuel line sensors, the ones Harper had disabled. "These have been physically cut, and then reconnected with bypass wiring," she explained. "It's actually elegant work. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. The system would read as functional during ground tests, but under operational stress, the bypasses would fail, and you'd have no warning of the fuel system failure." "Can you fix it?" Patricia asked. Maya bit her lip thinking, "Not properly. These sensors need to be completely replaced, and I don't think you have spares on hand." but I can jury-rig a direct connection that will work for 1 flight, maybe 2. It won't be pretty, but it'll be safe and functional. Show me your plan first, Patricia instructed. Maya sketched out her approach on a piece of paper, detailing the wiring schema. Patricia reviewed it, consulted with 2 other engineers, and then nodded. That'll work. It's actually better than what I would have done. Go ahead. Another 20 minutes passed. Maya's back ached from the awkward position, and sweat dripped down her temple despite the relatively cool morning. Her hands were cramping, but she didn't stop. Finally she stepped back, wiping her hands on a rag. Try it. Patricia nodded to the crew chief, who activated the engine diagnostic systems with caution. A soft mechanical whine filled the bay, swelling into the rhythmic purr of a turbine finding its breath. Then the unmistakable hum of stability, smooth, balanced, perfect. The diagnostic computer ran through its checks, screen after screen of data scrolling past. Patricia watched intently, her expression unreadable. The seconds stretched out, feeling like hours. Then she looked up, her eyes wide. Everything reads green, Patricia said, staring at her tablet in disbelief. Not just functional, it's perfect. Torque readings are within 0.02% of factory specifications. The fuel line jury rig is showing full operational capacity. The balance, she trailed off, shaking her head. The balance is better than it was before the sabotage. You somehow improved the engine's efficiency. Kevin stepped forward, checking the readings on his own device. That's impossible. She must have, but no, these readings are accurate. It's not impossible, Maya said quietly, exhaustion finally creeping into her voice. The original installation was slightly off-spec, probably within acceptable tolerances, but not optimal. When I reset the bolt pattern, I corrected for it. It's only a 0.3% improvement, but at cruising altitude over long distances, that translates to better fuel efficiency and reduced wear. The stunned silence that followed was broken by a single clap, then another. Then the applause came, spontaneous, genuine, echoing through the hangar. One of the mechanics let out a loud whoop. Others joined in, the sound building until it was almost deafening. Patricia walked forward and extended her hand. Maya shook it, suddenly feeling very young and very overwhelmed. I've been in this industry for 32 years, Patricia said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I've trained dozens of mechanics, worked with hundreds more. What you just did, most of them couldn't do it with twice the time and full certification. You have a gift, Maya. A real gift. Richard approached, his expression complex, relief, gratitude, amazement, and something else, something that looked almost like recognition, as if he'd just witnessed something he'd been waiting to see without knowing it. You just saved my life again, he said, his voice thick with emotion, and now you've saved my jet. More than that, you've given me back my schedule, those programs, those families who need help. Maya's shoulders sagged slightly, the adrenaline finally leaving her body. She looked up at him, her voice quiet and cracking slightly. I just wanted to help. I couldn't let something bad happen when I could prevent it. Richard nodded slowly, then looked around at the assembled crowd. I want everyone here to witness this. This young woman demonstrated more courage, integrity, and skill in the last 2 hours than most people show in a lifetime. She saw something wrong and spoke up when it would have been easier, safer to stay silent. She risked her livelihood to save a stranger's life. And then she solved a problem that professionals said would take half a day. He turned back to Maya. What's your father's name? Maya blinked, confused by the question. James Brennan. Why? Because I want to meet the man who raised someone like you. And I want to make sure the world doesn't waste someone like you. His voice held something different now. Intention. Purpose. The voice of a man who just decided something important. The applause eventually faded, but the moment lingered like the warmth of sunlight through glass. Richard Ashford didn't speak right away. He simply looked at Maya, his gaze anchored, not in pity or astonishment, but in conviction, like he just witnessed something rare, something real, something that reminded him why he did the work he did. Then he turned to his executive assistant, a young man named David, who'd been watching the whole scene with his mouth slightly open, and spoke with quiet firmness. Get the Ashford Foundation on the line.
I want the head of our scholarship division briefed within the hour, and call admissions at Halstead Institute of Aeronautics in Colorado. Tell them I need to speak with the dean personally. Today. Maya's eyes widened. Wait, what are you doing? Richard smiled, a genuine expression that softened the sharp edges of his businessman's face. I'm doing what should have been done a long time ago. What should happen every time someone demonstrates the kind of character and ability you've shown today? He reached into his blazer and pulled out a small ivory business card embossed with gold letters. This is my direct line. Not my office, not my assistant, my personal cell phone. You'll need it when the admissions board calls to schedule your interview. Maya stared at the card like it might vanish if she touched it. I'm offering you a full scholarship to Halstead, Maya. Richard continued, his voice gentle but firm. Housing, books, travel, stipend for living expenses, everything you need. It's one of the top 3 aerospace engineering schools in the country. You're not meant to clean jets. You're meant to build them, design them, maybe even revolutionize them. Maya's hand trembled as she reached for the card, her throat tightened, and she felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. But I haven't even finished high school yet. I don't even have a computer at home. We can't afford one. I don't know if I. Her voice cracked, the weight of the moment breaking through her composure. You don't need to know everything yet, Richard said gently, crouching slightly so they were at eye level. You just need a chance, and someone willing to bet on you. Consider this your runway, Maya. All you have to do is decide to take off. My dad, Maya whispered, the tears now flowing freely. He needs me, the medical bills, the rent, his medication. I can't just leave him. You're not leaving him, Richard said. Part of the scholarship includes a comprehensive support package. Your father will receive full medical coverage through the foundation, better than what you're currently providing through your job here. We'll also establish a trust to cover his living expenses. He won't need to worry about money while you're studying. And Halstead has holiday breaks where you can come home. He paused, letting that sink in. Maya, you've been carrying a weight no 17-year-old should have to carry. Let me help lift it. Let me help you both. Maya couldn't speak. Her whole body shook with sobs she'd been holding in for months, maybe years. The fear, the exhaustion, the constant weight of responsibility, the dreams she'd buried because survival took precedence, all of it came pouring out. Patricia stepped forward and put a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. Breathe, honey, just breathe. Richard stood and gave her space, but his expression remained warm. Take your time, but I need an answer today. The fall semester starts in 6 weeks, and we have a lot to prepare, if you're going to be ready.
Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing grease across her cheek. She looked at the card again, then at the jet she'd just repaired, then at the people around her who were watching with expressions of encouragement and hope. I don't know what to say, she finally managed. Say yes, Denise called out from the edge of the crowd, the same Denise who'd warned her to stay quiet earlier. Say yes, kid, you earned this. Tony nodded in agreement. You deserve this, Maya. Don't let fear steal your future. Even Frank, the quiet janitor who'd shared his tragic story, stepped forward. My daughter would have wanted me to tell you, don't let anyone, including yourself, convince you that you're not worth investing in. You are. Take the chance. Maya looked around at these people, her co-workers, her makeshift family for the past 8 months. They'd seen her struggle, helped her when they could, and now they were pushing her towards something they knew she needed. She turned back to Richard. Can I call my dad first? I can't make this decision without him. Richard smiled. Of course, use my phone, better reception than that old thing you've got. He handed her his phone, and Maya stepped away for privacy, her fingers shaking as she dialed the number she knew by heart. Her father answered on the second ring. Hello, Dad, it's me, Maya. Whose number is this? Is everything okay? You sound upset. And then it all came pouring out. The sabotage, the confrontation, the repair, the offer. She spoke quickly, tripping over words, barely pausing for breath. When she finished, there was silence on the other end. Dad? She heard him crying, her father who never cried, who'd stayed strong through the accident and the pain and the financial devastation. He was crying. Baby girl, he said, his voice breaking. I have prayed for something like this every single night. I prayed that somehow, some way your gifts would be seen, that you'd get the chance I never had. But what about you? I can't leave you alone. Listen to me, Maya Brennan. You listen good. I'm your father, and it's my job to take care of you, not the other way around. You've been carrying me for months, and I hate it. I hate that you had to grow up so fast, that you're working instead of being a kid. If this man is offering you a future, you take it. You take it and you run with it, and you make something extraordinary of yourself. That's what I need from you. That's how you take care of me, by not letting my problems hold you back. Dad? No arguments. This is not negotiable. You say yes. You understand me. Maya laughed through her tears. Yes, sir. That's my girl. Now go change the world. And Maya? Yeah? I love you. I'm so proud of you. I could burst. I love you too, Dad. She hung up and walked back to Richard, her decision made. She handed him his phone and stood up straight, wiping her face one more time. Yes, she said clearly, I accept. Thank you, Mr. Ashford. You won't regret this. Richard extended his hand, and she shook it firmly. I already know I won't. And please call me Richard. The crowd erupted again, this time with cheers and congratulations. Patricia pulled Maya into a hug. Kevin shook her hand enthusiastically. Even some of the pilots who'd been watching from a distance came over to offer their congratulations. Marcus, the head of security, approached Richard quietly. Sir, the FBI is here about Miss Harper. They need your statement. I'll be right there, Richard said. Then to Maya, I have to deal with the investigation now, but David will take care of all the arrangements. You'll need to finish out your notice here. I assume you want to give them proper warning. Maya nodded. 2 weeks. I owe them that much. Good. That gives us time to get everything in order. Halstead is going to want to do placement testing, and we'll need to arrange your housing. You'll have a lot to do in the next few weeks. He paused. Maya, this is just the beginning. The work ahead will be challenging, harder than anything you've done before. Are you ready for that? Maya thought about the early mornings, the late nights studying in the break room, the weight she'd carried for months. She thought about her father's words, about Frank's daughter, about the choice she'd made to speak up when silence would have been easier. I've been ready my whole life, she said. 6 weeks later, Maya stood in front of a mirror in her new dorm room at Halstead Institute of Aeronautics, barely recognizing herself. The transformation had been dizzying. The room was small but clean, with a window overlooking the Colorado mountains. She had a desk with a brand new laptop, her first computer that was actually hers, a bookshelf already filling with textbooks, a closet with more clothes than she'd owned in her entire life, all purchased during a shopping trip with a foundation representative who'd seemed determined to make sure she had everything she needed. Her roommate, a girl named Sophie Chen from California, was out at orientation. They'd met yesterday and hit it off immediately. Sophie was friendly, brilliant, and refreshingly down-to-earth despite coming from a wealthy family. But the past 6 weeks hadn't been easy. Maya had finished her 2 weeks at the airport, training her replacement, a young man named Derek who listened carefully to everything she taught him. Her co-workers had thrown her a surprise party on her last day, complete with a cake that read "Sky's not the limit" for Maya. She'd cried again, grateful for these people who'd become her family. The placement testing at Halstead had been intense. 3 days of examinations covering everything from basic mathematics to advanced physics, practical mechanical skills to theoretical engineering concepts. The admissions board had been skeptical at first, a 17-year-old with no formal training beyond public school and self-study, but her test scores had silenced the doubters. She'd placed into courses typically reserved for second-year students. The media attention had been unexpected and overwhelming. Local news had picked up the story first. Teen janitor saves billionaire, earns full scholarship. Then national outlets got hold of it. Maya had done one interview at Richard's request, carefully scripted to focus on the importance of speaking up and trusting your instincts. She'd declined all others, wanting to move forward rather than dwell on her 15 minutes of fame. Harper's case had become national news as well. The FBI investigation had uncovered a network of corporate espionage, with Harper working for a consortium of competitors who'd promised her millions to eliminate Richard Ashford. The timing had been deliberate. Harper had spent 12 years building trust and access, waiting for the perfect moment when she could act without suspicion. She'd taken a plea deal to avoid trial, agreeing to testify against her co-conspirators in exchange for a reduced sentence of 18 years instead of life. In one of her interviews, Harper had mentioned Maya, calling her a pawn in Ashford's public relations game. The comment had stung, even though Maya knew it wasn't true. Richard had called her immediately after that interview aired. "Don't let her poison this," he'd said. "She's bitter and trying to diminish what you did. You saved a life, Maya. You changed your own life. That's real, regardless of what anyone says." Now standing in her dorm room thousands of miles from home, Maya felt the weight of it all, the opportunity, the expectations, the fear that maybe Harper had been right, that maybe she didn't really belong here. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. The door opened to reveal Richard Ashford, dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt, more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. He held a wrapped package. "Richard, I didn't know you were coming. I wanted to see you settled in before the semester starts tomorrow. Do you have a few minutes?" Of course. They sat in the small sitting area, and Richard handed her the package. "Open it." Inside was a leather-bound journal, expensive and beautiful, with her initials embossed on the cover. And beneath it, a framed photograph, the image Patricia had taken on the tarmac after Maya had finished the repair. Maya was standing next to the jet, grease-stained and exhausted, but smiling. She looked proud. She looked capable. "I thought you might need a reminder," Richard said. "On the hard days, and there will be hard days, I want you to look at this and remember what you're capable of." Maya traced her fingers over the journal. "Thank you, for this, for everything. I still can't quite believe it's real. It's real. And Maya, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told many people." She looked up, curious. Richard leaned forward, his expression serious. "I grew up poor. Not as poor as some, but we struggled. My father worked in a factory, my mother cleaned houses. I got into business school on a scholarship not unlike yours. Someone saw potential in me and took a chance. That investment changed my life, and I've spent my career trying to pay it forward." He paused, his eyes distant. "But I've made mistakes. Built wealth faster than I built wisdom. Harper wasn't entirely wrong about some things. I have more than I need, more than anyone needs. And I've struggled with what to do with that, how to use it in ways that actually matter." "You've done so much good," Maya protested. "The foundation, the programs, writing checks is easy," Richard interrupted gently. "What's hard is actually seeing people, really seeing them. You know how many times I walked past you at that airport, Maya. Dozens. I said thank you, maybe asked your name once, but I didn't see you. Not really. I didn't see the girl studying aircraft manuals in her breaks. I didn't see the weight you were carrying." He looked at her directly. "You saved my life twice that day, once from the sabotage, and once from the kind of blindness that wealth creates. You reminded me that extraordinary people are everywhere, doing ordinary jobs, waiting for someone to notice. So thank you." Maya didn't know what to say. She'd never considered that she'd given him anything. It had seemed so one-sided, this transaction of gratitude and opportunity. "I just did what I thought was right," she said quietly. "Exactly, and that's rarer than you know." Richard stood. "I'll let you finish settling in, but I want you to know, you can call me any time, day or night, if you need help, advice, or just someone to talk to. You're not alone in this, Maya." After he left, Maya sat with the journal and the photograph for a long time. Then she opened to the first page and began to write. "Day 1 of the rest of my life. I'm terrified, but I'm here, and I'm going to make every moment count." 12 months passed in a blur of challenges, growth and transformation. The Halstead campus bathed in golden morning light, sleek white buildings framed by trees in bloom. At the edge of a high-tech hangar, a group of students in blue overalls and safety goggles gather around a training jet, a decommissioned Cessna Citation used for hands-on learning. Among them is Maya, now 18, a little taller, her dark hair tied back in a professional bun. Her eyes focused and confident, she's explaining fluid dynamics to 3 classmates, gesturing to the intake valves with the same calm certainty she once used to fix a billionaire's plane. Her name tag reads, Maya Brennan, Technical Fellow, but the past year hadn't been the smooth trajectory of success that onlookers might have assumed. It had been harder than anything Maya could have imagined. The academic workload had nearly broken her in the first semester.
calculus at a college level, advanced physics, materials engineering, all while also taking remedial coursework to fill gaps in her education. There were nights she'd studied until 3 in the morning, nights she'd called her father crying, convinced she couldn't do it. "You can," he'd always said. "You just need to keep going one more day." Sophie had been a lifeline, helping her navigate the social dynamics of college, introducing her to study groups, teaching her how to advocate for herself with professors who initially dismissed her as too young or too inexperienced. There had also been resentment from some students, whispers that she'd only gotten in because of Richard Ashford's influence, that the scholarship was charity rather than merit. A particularly nasty incident in November, where someone had vandalized her dorm room door with the words "diversity admission," had almost made her quit. But Patricia Summers had driven 3 hours from Nashville to spend a weekend with her, reminding her that pioneers always face resistance. "You think I didn't get similar treatment as one of the first women in my program," Patricia had said. "They want you to quit. That's how they win. You stay, you succeed, you prove them wrong, that's how you win." Maya had stayed. By spring semester, her grades had stabilized in the top 10% of her class. She'd joined the experimental aircraft design team. She'd even started a mentorship program, video calling with middle school girls from low-income backgrounds, showing them that aerospace engineering was possible for them too. And now, at the end of her freshman year, she was leading a diagnostic exercise, the same type that had once tested her, now teaching others. "Remember," she told her classmates, "the systems are interconnected. You can't just look at one component in isolation. The fuel system affects the hydraulic system, which affects the electrical system. You have to think holistically." One of her classmates, a junior named Brett who'd been skeptical of her at first, nodded appreciatively. "I never thought about it that way. That makes so much sense." Across the hangar, a car pulled up. Richard Ashford stepped out, dressed in navy this time, a subtle smile playing on his lips. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stepped an older man with kind eyes and graying temples, walking with a slight limp but moving more easily than he had in months. Maya's father, James Brennan. Richard had personally arranged for him to attend today's end-of-year demonstration, flying him in from Nashville. And there was someone else, Patricia Summers, carrying a portfolio that Maya recognized as containing aircraft certification documents. Maya turned and saw them. For a moment her professional composure cracked. She excused herself from her classmates and walked toward them, trying to maintain her dignity but breaking into a run halfway there. "Dad," she collided with James, hugging him fiercely. "Hey sweetheart," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Look at you, look at this place. I'm so proud I don't have words for it." Maya pulled back, noticing how much better he looked. The pain that had always etched his face had eased. He stood straighter. "You look amazing, Dad. The treatment's working. The Foundation's medical coverage got me into a specialist program," James explained. "New therapy, better medication. I'm not 100%, but I'm better than I've been in 2 years. Might even be able to go back to light work soon." "Dad, you don't have to. I want to," he said firmly. "You're building your future. Let me rebuild mine." Richard stepped forward, extending his hand to Maya. She shook it, then surprised him by pulling him into a hug too. "Thank you for bringing him," she said. "Wouldn't have it any other way. Besides, I wanted to see this." He gestured to the hangar, the students, the aircraft. "Patricia's been keeping me updated on your progress. She says you're exceptional." Patricia stepped forward. "More than exceptional. Maya, I'm here in an official capacity today. I've been working with the FAA and the Halstead administration on something special." She opened the portfolio and pulled out a document. "Maya, you're completing an accelerated technical certification program that normally takes 2 years. Because of your demonstrated expertise, practical experience, and academic performance, Halstead has agreed to fast-track your certification process. Upon successful completion of your sophomore year and passing the FAA examinations, you'll receive your airframe and power plant mechanic certification, making you one of the youngest certified AANDP mechanics in the country." Maya stared at the document, her hands shaking as she took it. This is real. "It's real," Patricia confirmed. "And I'd like to offer you an internship with my company this summer. Paid position, real work, not just fetching coffee. What do you say?" "I say yes," Maya nearly shouted, then caught herself. I mean yes, thank you, I would be honored. The group laughed, and James pulled his daughter close again. The mood was jubilant, but the day's real test was still ahead. The end-of-year demonstration was Halstead's most important event. Prospective students and their families, industry representatives, and potential employers all attended to see what the program produced. This year, Maya's team had been selected to present their project, a redesign of the Cessna's engine intake system that improved fuel efficiency by 7% while reducing noise pollution by 12%. It was innovative work, but the real test would be the live demonstration. Dean Harrison, a stern man in his 60s who'd been openly skeptical of admitting Maya, would be evaluating their presentation. He'd softened slightly over the year as her performance proved his concerns unfounded, but he still watched her with particular scrutiny. Maya's team assembled in front of the crowd, about 200 people filling the hangar. Her team consisted of herself, Sophie, Brett, and 2 other students named Amanda and Jason. They'd worked on this project for 4 months, countless late nights in the lab. Sophie handled the technical presentation, explaining the theoretical basis for their modifications. Amanda and Jason discussed the materials and construction process. Brett covered the testing methodology. Then it was Maya's turn, the actual demonstration. She stepped up to the modified aircraft, microphone clipped to her collar, and began explaining their approach while physically demonstrating the modifications they'd made. Her hands moved with confidence, pointing out specific improvements, explaining how each change contributed to the overall performance enhancement. The key innovation, she explained, was recognizing that the original intake design created micro-turbulence that reduced efficiency. By implementing a graduated baffle system with variable geometry, we smooth the airflow while maintaining optimal pressure. The result is more complete combustion, which means better fuel efficiency and fewer emissions. Then came the moment of truth. The team started the engine. The crowd listened intently as the modified engine hummed to life. It was noticeably quieter than the control engine running beside it. The diagnostic equipment showed the improved efficiency metrics in real time. The demonstration ran flawlessly. When it finished, the applause was immediate and sustained. Dean Harrison stood, which prompted others to stand as well. A standing ovation. Maya's team hugged each other, relief and excitement bubbling over. They'd done it. They'd proven their concept worked. After the formal presentation, the crowd mingled. Industry representatives approached Maya's team with questions and business cards. Several expressed interest in hiring them for internships or for the upperclassmen, full-time positions after graduation. But one conversation stood out. An older woman, elegantly dressed with silver hair and sharp eyes, approached Maya directly. "Miss Brennan, I'm Catherine Morrison. I'm the chief engineer at North Star Aviation." Maya's eyes widened. North Star was one of the biggest names in private aircraft manufacturing. "It's an honor to meet you, Miss Morrison." "The honor is mine. I've been following your story since the incident in Nashville. What you did that day was remarkable. What you've done since then is even more impressive." She handed Maya a card. "I'd like you to consider a different kind of internship this summer. We have a special program for exceptional young talent. You'd work directly with my team on next-generation aircraft design. It would be demanding, but I think you're ready for it." Maya looked at the card, then at Patricia, who was standing nearby and had overheard the conversation. Patricia smiled and nodded. "Take it. My offer stands for next summer. This is an opportunity you can't pass up." Maya looked at Catherine Morrison. "I would love to. Thank you." "Excellent. Someone from my office will be in touch about the details." Catherine paused. "You remind me of myself at your age, Maya. Same fire, same determination. The world tries to tell girls like us that we don't belong in this field. Prove them wrong." As Catherine walked away, James approached his daughter, his eyes shining. "You did good, baby girl. You did so good." Maya leaned against her father, suddenly exhausted and exhilarated all at once. "I can't believe this is my life now." "Believe it," Richard said, joining them. "You've earned every bit of it, and this is just the beginning, Maya. You have decades ahead of you to make your mark on this industry." That evening, Richard hosted a small celebration dinner at a restaurant overlooking the mountains. The guest list was intimate. Maya and her father, Patricia, Sophie, Dean Harrison, who'd surprised everyone by accepting the invitation, and a few of Maya's professors. Over dessert, Dean Harrison stood and cleared his throat. I'd like to say a few words if I may. He looked at Maya. When Richard Ashford called me last year and told me about you, I was skeptical. Extremely skeptical. A 17-year-old with no formal training. It seemed like a publicity stunt if I'm honest. I agreed to the placement testing expecting you to fail, expecting to have the satisfaction of telling a billionaire that money can't buy credentials. Maya felt her stomach tighten, but Harrison's expression was warm. I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Maya, you didn't just meet our standards, you exceeded them. Your work ethic, your innovation, your ability to collaborate and lead, you've set a new bar for what we expect from our students. I owe you an apology for doubting you, and I owe Richard thanks for pushing me past my prejudices. He raised his glass to Maya Brennan, who reminds us that talent and character can't be measured by age or background. Everyone raised their glasses, and Maya felt tears prickling her eyes again. She seemed to cry a lot these days, happy tears, grateful tears, overwhelmed tears. After dinner, as the group dispersed, Richard pulled Maya aside for a private conversation on the restaurant's terrace. I need to tell you something else, he said, about Harper's trial. Maya tensed. She deliberately avoided following the case, not wanting to relive that morning. The investigation uncovered something interesting. Richard continued. Harper had been sabotaging more than just my aircraft. She'd been manipulating foundation funds, diverting money meant for charitable programs into offshore accounts. We recovered most of it, but it revealed gaps in our oversight. He paused. I've restructured the foundation's leadership, brought in independent auditors, implemented new transparency measures. Your integrity that day didn't just save my life, it saved the foundation's work. The programs we fund, the families we help, all of that would have been compromised if her corruption had continued. I never thought about it that way, Maya admitted. Most people don't think about the ripple effects of doing the right thing. But they're real, Maya. Because you spoke up, 40,000 families still have food security, 50 schools in underserved communities still have funding, 3 medical clinics in rural areas stayed open. That's the real impact of your courage. Maya looked out at the mountains, processing this. Harper said something that day, when they were taking her away. She said you'd use me and discard me. That people like you always do that. Richard was quiet for a moment. Do you believe that? No, Maya said immediately. You've never treated me like a tool or a prop. You've given me opportunities, yes, but you've also let me fail and learn and grow on my own terms. You haven't tried to control my choices or use my story for your benefit. Good, because that's not what this is about. I don't need your story to make me look good, Maya. I have more than enough public relations support. He smiled slightly. What I need is to know that when I'm gone, there are people like you in the world. People who will speak truth to power, who will choose integrity over convenience, who will use their gifts to lift others up. That's a lot of pressure, Maya said with a slight laugh. It's not pressure, it's trust. I trust you to be exactly who you are, to make your own choices, to build your own legacy. I'm just glad I got to play a small part in making that possible. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the Colorado Rockies, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. You know what I think about sometimes, Maya said. What if I hadn't been working that morning? What if I'd called in sick, or been assigned to a different area, or just not looked over at the right moment? But you were there, Richard said. That's what matters. Life is full of sliding door moments, Maya. We can drive ourselves crazy thinking about what might have been, or we can be grateful for what is. Maya nodded. I'm grateful for all of it, even the hard parts. The hard parts especially, Richard agreed. They're what prove we're worthy of the good parts.
The following morning, before driving her father back to the airport, Maya took him on a tour of campus. She showed him her dorm room, her classrooms, the laboratories where she spent most of her time. She introduced him to Sophie, who charmed him immediately with her warm personality and terrible dad jokes. But the most important stop was the hangar where she'd done her demonstration. This is where it all happens, Maya said, running her hand along the fuselage of the Cessna. This is where I learned that I could actually do this, not just dream about it. James watched his daughter with an expression of pure love. Your mom would be proud, you know, wherever she is. Maya tensed. They rarely talked about her mother, the wound still too raw even after 8 years. I like to think so, Maya said carefully. She left because she couldn't handle the struggle, James said quietly. Couldn't handle being poor, couldn't handle the responsibility of a family. I don't blame her anymore. She wasn't equipped for it. But Maya, you took that same struggle and turned it into strength. You could have become bitter, could have given up, could have taken the easy path of staying small and safe, but you didn't. He put his arm around her shoulders. You're going to do things she couldn't imagine. You're going to see places, create things, impact lives, and when you do, remember that it all started with a girl who refused to stay silent, who refused to accept that her circumstances defined her limits. Dad, you're going to make me cry before breakfast. He laughed. That's my right as a father, making you cry with pride, embarrassing you in front of your friends, it's all in the job description. As they walked back toward the parking lot where Richard's car waited, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi Maya, this is Catherine Morrison's office. We'd like to schedule a call to discuss your summer internship. Are you available Monday at 2 p.m.? Maya showed the text to her father, her face lighting up. You're really doing it, baby girl. You're really living the dream. Our dream, Maya corrected. This is for both of us, Dad. You worked 2 jobs so I could stay in school. You encouraged me to keep studying even when it seemed pointless. This success is yours as much as mine. James stopped walking and turned to face his daughter fully. No, Maya, this is your success. I'm proud to have supported you, but you're the one who did the work. You're the one who had the courage. You're the one who saw something wrong and spoke up when it would have cost you everything. Don't diminish that by giving credit away. He cupped her face gently. I want you to own your achievements, Maya. Women, especially young women, are taught to be humble, to share credit, to make themselves smaller so others feel comfortable. Don't do that. You earned this. Say it. I earned this. Maya said quietly. Louder. I earned this, she said with more conviction. Again. I earned this. Maya said loud enough that a few passing students looked over curiously. James grinned. That's my girl. Now go schedule that call and show them what Maya Brennan is made of. 2 months later, Maya stood in the lobby of Northstar Aviation's headquarters in Seattle, her overnight bag at her feet, staring up at the soaring glass atrium. The building was a monument to aerospace innovation, vintage aircraft, suspended from the ceiling, interactive displays showing the evolution of flight, photographs of legendary pilots and engineers lining the walls. She'd arrived the night before and stayed in corporate housing, a furnished apartment that was nicer than anywhere she'd ever lived. The reality of the internship was finally hitting her. Maya Brennan. She turned to see a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail and an efficient demeanor. I'm Rachel Kim, Miss Morrison's executive assistant. Welcome to Northstar. Ready for your first day? As ready as I'll ever be, Maya said, trying to project confidence she didn't quite feel. The internship was everything Catherine Morrison had promised and more. Maya was assigned to a team developing the next generation of sustainable aircraft, planes that could run on alternative fuels and produce significantly lower emissions. Her youth, rather than being a liability, became an asset. She brought fresh perspectives, wasn't bound by the way things have always been done, but it wasn't easy. The team consisted of engineers with decades of experience, and while most welcomed her contributions, a few resented having an 18-year-old in the room. One engineer, a man named Gordon Steele who'd been with the company for 23 years, was particularly dismissive. No offense, kid, he said during her first team meeting, but we're trying to solve real problems here. This isn't a classroom exercise. Catherine Morrison had been in that meeting. Her response was swift and sharp. Gordon, Maya fixed a sabotaged Gulfstream engine in under 30 minutes and improved its efficiency while doing so. She's published a paper on intake system modifications that's being cited by researchers at MIT. Show her the same respect you'd show any other member of this team, or find another project to work on. Gordon had gone red-faced but nodded curtly. After that he'd left Maya alone, though his resentment simmered beneath the surface. The breakthrough came in week 4. The team was stuck on a problem with fuel distribution. The alternative fuels they were testing didn't flow quite the same way as traditional jet fuel, causing inconsistent combustion. They'd been running simulations for weeks without finding a solution. Maya had been studying the problem quietly, running her own calculations in the evenings. Finally, during a team meeting where frustration was reaching a boiling point, she spoke up. "What if we're thinking about this backwards?" The room went quiet. "We're trying to make the alternative fuel behave like traditional fuel," Maya continued, standing up and moving to the whiteboard. "But they're fundamentally different materials with different properties. Instead of fighting those properties, what if we redesigned the combustion chamber to work with them?" She started sketching, her marker flying across the board as she explained her concept, a variable geometry combustion chamber that could adapt to different fuel viscosities and combustion rates. When she finished, the room was silent. Then Catherine Morrison started clapping, slowly at first, then joined by others. Even Gordon looked grudgingly impressed. "That's brilliant," said Jennifer Park, the team's lead engineer. "It's so simple I can't believe we didn't see it." "Maya, can you work up a detailed proposal?" "I already have," Maya said, pulling out her tablet. "I've been modeling this for the past 2 weeks. The simulations show a 23% improvement in fuel efficiency and a 40% reduction in particulate emissions." The proposal became the foundation for Northstar's new engine design. The company fast-tracked it into development, with Maya credited as a primary contributor. At 18 years old, she had her name on a patent application, but success bred new challenges. The media caught wind of the story. Teen prodigy revolutionizes green aviation, and suddenly Maya was doing interviews again, appearing on morning shows, being profiled in industry magazines. The attention was overwhelming and often felt invasive. Worse, it brought scrutiny. Online trolls dissected her background, questioned whether she'd actually done the work, or if she was just a figurehead for publicity. Some claimed Richard Ashford was ghostwriting her papers, others suggested she was stealing credit from the real engineers. The criticism hurt, especially when it came from people within the aerospace community who should have known better. Sophie called one night after Maya had spent 3 hours reading vicious comments about herself online. "Stop torturing yourself," Sophie said firmly. "You know the truth. Everyone who actually works with you knows the truth. Random people on the internet who've never met you, their opinions are worthless." "But what if they're right?" Maya said, her voice small. "What if I am just getting opportunities because of Richard? What if I haven't actually earned any of this?" "Maya, listen to me. Richard opened doors for you. That's true, but you're the one who walked through them and proved you belonged. No one can fake the work you've done. No one can fake your test scores, your grades, your patent application, your published research. That's all you. I just feel like I have to work twice as hard to prove I deserve to be here." "You probably do," Sophie said bluntly. "That's the reality of being young female, and from a non-traditional background in this field. It sucks, but it's true." "But Maya, you are working twice as hard. You're doing the work. Let that be enough." The conversation helped, but the pressure continued to mount. By week 8 of the internship, Maya was exhausted, physically, emotionally, mentally. She was working 12-hour days, staying up late to respond to media requests, dealing with online harassment, and trying to maintain her relationships with her father and her friends back at Halstead. Then came the breaking point. It happened during a major presentation to Northstar's board of directors. The Sustainable Aircraft Project was requesting additional funding for full-scale prototype development, and the team had been preparing for weeks. Maya was scheduled to present the engine design, her design. She'd rehearsed dozens of times, knew the material inside and out. But when she stood up in that boardroom, looking at 15 executives in expensive suits, the weight of everything crashed down on her. Her mind went blank. She stood there, frozen, staring at her slides without seeing them. Seconds ticked by. 5, 10, 15. The silence became painful. "Miss Brennan," the board chairman prompted gently. "Are you ready to begin?" Maya opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her vision started to tunnel. Her heart raced. She couldn't breathe properly. Catherine Morrison recognized what was happening immediately. She stood smoothly. "Let's take a 10-minute break," she announced. "Maya, come with me." Catherine guided Maya out of the boardroom and into a small office, closing the door behind them. "Sit down, put your head between your knees, breathe." Maya did as instructed, gulping air, trying to calm her racing heart. "You're having a panic attack," Catherine said calmly. "It's okay, it happens, just focus on breathing." Several minutes passed before Maya could speak. I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened. I knew the material, I was ready, and then you broke. Catherine said simply. Maya, you've been running on fumes for weeks. I've watched you push yourself to the breaking point. This was inevitable. But the presentation, Jennifer can handle the presentation. That's not what's important right now. Catherine sat down beside her. What's important is that you're 18 years old, and you're trying to carry the weight of the world. That's not sustainable. I have to. Maya protested. Everyone's watching me. If I fail, it reflects on Richard, on the scholarship program, on every other kid who comes from nothing. I can't afford to be weak. Asking for help isn't weakness. Taking breaks isn't weakness. Having limits isn't weakness. Catherine's voice was firm but kind. Maya, I'm going to tell you something I wish someone had told me at your age. Your worth is not determined by how much you can endure. You don't have to sacrifice your mental health to prove you belong. But everyone thinks I'm only here because of Richard. Some people think that. They're wrong, and their opinions don't matter. The people who actually work with you know your value. I know your value. More importantly, you need to know your value, independent of anyone's opinions or expectations. Maya wiped her eyes. I don't know if I can keep doing this. The pressure, the scrutiny, the constant feeling that I'm one mistake away from proving everyone's doubts right. Then maybe it's time to step back from some things. Catherine said, no more media interviews unless you genuinely want to do them. No more responding to online critics. No more trying to be everything to everyone. Just focus on the work you love. What if people think I'm hiding? Let them think whatever they want. Maya, you have a gift, a genuine extraordinary gift for engineering. But gifts need to be nurtured, not exploited. If you burn out at 18, the world loses everything you could have contributed over the next 60 years. Is that really worth protecting other people's opinions of you? The words hit home. Maya sat quietly, processing them. I need to call my dad, she said finally. Good idea. Take the rest of the day off. Go back to your apartment. Rest. Talk to your father. We'll regroup tomorrow. That evening Maya had a long video call with James. She told him everything. The panic attack, the exhaustion, the fear that she was failing everyone. James listened patiently, then spoke with the quiet wisdom that had guided her entire life. Baby girl, do you remember what I told you before you left for Halstead, about doing the right thing? Yes, I need to add something to that. Sometimes the right thing is knowing when to take a breath, when to rest before you push forward again. You're not a machine, Maya, you're human, and humans need breaks. But I have responsibilities. Your first responsibility is to yourself, to your health, your well-being, your future. Everything else comes second. He paused. I'm worried about you, sweetheart. You sound like I did before my accident, pushing too hard, ignoring the warning signs, thinking I was invincible. Don't make my mistakes. What should I do? What feels right to you? Forget what everyone else wants or expects. What do you need? Maya thought about it, really thought about it, maybe for the first time in months. I need to slow down. I need to say no to things. I need to remember why I fell in love with aircraft in the first place, not because it would make me famous or prove anything, but because I genuinely love it. Then that's what you do, and anyone who has a problem with it can answer to me. Maya laughed, the first genuine laugh in weeks. I love you, Dad. Love you too, baby girl. Now go get some rest. The next morning, Maya met with Catherine Morrison and laid out new boundaries. No more media interviews for the remainder of the summer. No presentations to the board. She'd contribute the technical work, but others could handle the public-facing aspects. She'd work reasonable hours, not the 12-hour marathons she'd been doing. Catherine agreed to everything. I should have insisted on this from the start, she admitted. I got caught up in the excitement of having you on the team and forgot that you're still learning to navigate this world. That's on me. With the new boundaries in place, Maya rediscovered her joy in the work. She spent her days designing, calculating, testing the parts of engineering she actually loved. She made friends with other interns, went hiking in the mountains on weekends, video called Sophie late into the night just to talk about nothing important. The engine design project moved forward. The board approved the funding, and North Star began building the prototype. Maya's name was on the patent, her contribution recognized, but she no longer felt the need to prove herself constantly.
Gordon Steele, interestingly, became one of her biggest advocates. After watching her panic attack and subsequent recovery, something shifted in him. He approached her one day in the lab. "I owe you an apology," he said gruffly. "I've been a jerk. I was threatened by you, a kid doing work I've spent decades learning. Made me feel obsolete. But watching you handle this summer, the grace you've shown under pressure, you've got more character than I did at your age. Hell, more than I have now. Thank you for saying that," Maya said, genuinely touched. "I mean it, and I want to help, if you'll let me. I've got connections in the industry, experience you don't have yet. Let me mentor you properly, not as competition, but as a colleague." It was the beginning of an unlikely friendship that would last for years. As the summer wound down, Catherine called Maya into her office for a final conversation. "I have a proposition for you," she said. "North Star wants to offer you a permanent position on our research team. Obviously you'd continue your education at Halstead, but you'd work with us remotely during the school year, and in person during summers. We're talking about a genuine career path, Maya. By the time you graduate college, you'd be a senior engineer here." Maya felt her heart race, but this time with excitement, not panic. That's incredible. Can I think about it?" "Of course, talk to Richard, your father, your advisors at Halstead. This is a big decision." That night, Maya called everyone she trusted for advice. Richard encouraged her to negotiate for even better terms. "Don't undervalue yourself, Maya. They need you as much as you need them." Patricia reminded her to keep her education as the priority. Sophie told her to trust her gut. Her father simply said he'd support whatever she decided. In the end, Maya accepted the position with some modifications. She'd work remotely 10 hours per week during the school year, focusing only on research and design. No presentations or administrative work. Summers she'd work full-time, but with the same boundaries about reasonable hours and media appearances. North Star agreed immediately. On her last day of the internship, the team threw her a small party. Gordon presented her with a gift, a framed photograph of the first prototype engine, with all the team members' signatures around the border. "You're one of us now," he said. "Welcome to the family." Maya returned to Halstead in late August for her sophomore year, but she was different. More confident, more certain of her worth, more comfortable setting boundaries. She'd learned that she didn't have to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. The year flew by. She continued her work with North Star remotely, balanced her coursework, maintained her friendships. She even started dating a sweet junior named Alex, who treated her like a normal person, rather than a prodigy. Spring semester brought an unexpected opportunity. Nashville International Airport was hosting a career day for local high school students, introducing them to careers in aviation. The organizers reached out to Maya, asking if she'd be willing to speak and maybe demonstrate some basic maintenance. Maya agreed, seeing it as a chance to come full circle. The event was held in the same hangar where she'd worked as a janitor 2 years earlier. Walking through those doors felt surreal. She'd been so small then, so invisible. Now she was walking in as a guest speaker, wearing professional clothes instead of a janitor's uniform. Denise was still there, now a supervisor. She spotted Maya and immediately pulled her into a fierce hug. "Look at you, we've all been following your story. Everyone here is so proud of you, Maya." Tony was there too, and Frank. They'd all taken the day off to attend her talk. "You gave us something to believe in," Frank said quietly. "After my daughter died, I didn't think I'd ever feel hope again. But watching you take your chance and run with it, it reminded me that good things can still happen in this world." The students, about 150 of them, gathered in the hangar. Maya looked out at their faces and saw herself 2 years ago. Kids from difficult backgrounds, kids who probably felt invisible, kids who thought careers like hers were for other people. She decided to tell them the whole truth. 2 years ago, I was standing in this exact spot, wearing a janitor's uniform that didn't fit, cleaning a jet I thought I'd never be qualified to touch. I was 17, working to help my dad with medical bills, studying aircraft manuals in the break room because I loved planes but didn't think I'd ever actually work on them. She told them about seeing the sabotage, about the choice she'd faced between safety and speaking up, about fixing the engine, about Richard's scholarship, about the struggles and triumphs of the past 2 years. "I'm not telling you this to brag," she said. I'm telling you because I want you to know that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. I started here, mopping floors. Now I'm designing engines. That transformation didn't happen because I'm special or because I have some extraordinary talent. It happened because I refused to let my circumstances define my limits. She paused, looking directly at a girl in the front row who couldn't have been more than 13, eyes wide with wonder. Someone in this room right now is going to do something extraordinary. Maybe you're going to design the first passenger spacecraft. Maybe you're going to solve climate change through aviation innovation. Maybe you're going to start your own company. I don't know who you are yet. You might not even know who you are yet. But I'm here to tell you that it's possible. The door isn't locked. You just have to have the courage to reach for the handle. The speech received a standing ovation, but the real impact came afterward. During the meet and greet, dozens of students approached Maya with questions, with their own stories, with dreams they'd been too afraid to voice. One girl, a high school senior named Jessica from a low-income neighborhood, pulled Maya aside. I want to be an aerospace engineer, she said quietly. But my guidance counselor told me to be realistic about my goals. Said girls like me don't get into those programs. Maya felt a flash of anger at the counselor, but she kept her voice calm. Your guidance counselor is wrong, dead wrong. Do you know what you need to do? Jessica shook her head. You need to prove them wrong. Work hard, study everything you can get your hands on, and apply to every program that interests you. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't achieve. Maya pulled out her phone. Give me your email address. I'm going to send you resources, study materials, scholarship information, contact information for mentors, and you're going to email me once a month with updates on your progress. Deal? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You do that for me. Someone did it for me. Now I'm paying it forward. That's how this works. By the end of the session, Maya had collected email addresses from 23 students who wanted mentorship. She'd committed to monthly check-ins, to reviewing their applications, to being the support system she desperately needed. As she was leaving, Richard Ashford appeared. He'd flown in quietly, not wanting his presence to draw attention from her speech. You know what that was, he said, gesturing to the lingering groups of inspired students. What? That was you multiplying yourself. Every kid you inspire, every door you help open, that's your legacy expanding. You're not just an engineer anymore, Maya. You're a catalyst for change. Maya looked back at the hangar, at the jet she'd once cleaned and then fixed, at the students chatting excitedly about their futures. I'm just trying to do what you did for me. No, Richard corrected gently. You're doing something much bigger. I helped one person. You're building a movement. They stood together, watching the afternoon light fade across the runway, over the aircraft that represented not just technological innovation, but the power of one person's courage to change everything.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.